Welcome to Financial Freestyle. I'm Ross Mack, and this is sponsored by Vanguard. Welcome to Financial Freestyle here on Yahoo Finance, and I'm your host, Ross Mack. Now look, guys, no matter where you are on your financial journey, there's always a first step you got to take. And guys, look no further because I'm talking to some of the most influential people in their fields, and today is no different because I'm talking to the Antoine Walker, three-time NBA All-Star, NBA champion, and a hometown Chicago legend. Twan, what's up, baby? How you living?
I'm living good, man. Thanks for having me on the show, man.
Man, I would be remiss if I was not to say one, being a Chicago legend, you played a great part of my upbringing as a person that always wanted to play basketball. And I tell you right now, man, I used to come to some of your basketball camps as a kid. So I just want to tip my hat to you and salute you because you did a lot for the city, boss.
Man, thanks, man. You make me feel like I'm super old, but yeah, when you say you attended my camps, but nah. Uh, that was my way of giving back, man. Being able to be able to give some camps in the summertime, help some, because a lot of people don't know my mission when I first came in was single parent moms. My mom was a single parent that raised six of us by herself, so I knew the struggles and the things that she needed to do to try to find activities for her kids. So I wanted to open up that door, and I was able to do that for many years.
When we talk about your basketball impact, right? Like it's insane, but I will also commend you because a lot of the stuff you do off the court is pretty remarkable and influential, right? I think when it comes to your work in financial literacy, right? Like let's actually talk about that and what made you go and start getting more vocal about athletes needing financial literacy.
Well, obviously, when I went through my financial hardship back in 2010, 2011, and I saw the mistakes that I actually made, it was just really from the lack of education. Obviously, I have financial advisors and they tried to guide me a certain way, but I come from very humble beginnings. So we didn't have a lot of money. I didn't know none about making money, taxes. That's like one of the biggest things. I mean, how many people in their home talk about to their kids about taxes? And when I realized that, my first paycheck was 1.6 million, but I only saw like 800,000 of it. You know what I mean? So, so it's just like those type of things that I was just didn't know about. I had to learn, and you learn on the fly. I went pro at 19 years old, which obviously now we got guys that go pro 18, 19 more commonly. But back then that was a rarity to go pro at 18, 19 years old. So I never had money, and so I had to learn on the fly. So just going through that process, I know how these young guys are thinking. I know they're not thinking about 40, 45. They're not thinking about financial wealth at 50 years old. They're getting that money right now and they're attacking and they're spending a lot. So you just try to, I think it's my job to kind of use my negative story. I wouldn't say negative, but the things that I did wrong and just kind of like help them out because I know the things that they want to do. I know the things that they're buying. I know the things that they're overlooking. So I try to put that back in their face and understand that this basketball career or any sports career is going to be short lived and you got a whole life to live after your career is over with. So I just want to try to get there in their head. And it's tough sometimes when you're talking to an 18 or 19-year-old to let them know about thinking about 40. They don't want to think about that. They're living in the now. So I try to get that in their head to think about generational wealth. They're going to eventually have kids if they don't have kids already and making sure their kids are well taken care of. So it's a process. And my job, and I just felt like it's my job to help educate those guys on those type of things.
Yeah, when you look at some of the statistics, it's pretty staggering, right? Where within 5 years of retiring from the NBA, roughly 60% of NBA players end up experiencing some type of financial hardship. And I want to say in the NFL, it's closer to like 70%, right? And so when you think about that, and especially now where you see younger athletes getting bigger checks, and I always preface this by saying like, it's not a, how much money you make problem. It's actually a spending problem because it's not just athletes, right? Like I want to say over 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And if you look like, oh, it's just athletes, well, no, it's a lack of overall financial knowledge that our entire society has. And, I want to say when you look at just a normal person that could win the lottery, over 70% of them also end up going broke. And so what do you think is, the missing link that either should be taught in school, or the psychology of money? And more importantly, what have you learned by going through it that you're now helping other players learn now?
I think first and foremost, we got to understand taxes, your tax bracket that you're in. So I think, a lot of guys, if people don't understand, because you see a guy making $1 million, it's not $1 million. You now you go into a different tax bracket, so that's $600,000. So that's the first and foremost. We got to get into the tax part of it first. I think we have to understand that part, and then I think the biggest thing is that it's the lifestyle that you create. I think we have to start teaching our kids about the lifestyle, because when you're making money and everything is going good, you're buying cars, you got houses, you got jewelry, you got all these things going on. But at some point, the money's going to stop coming in the way when it came in the beginning. And are you able and are you prepared to maintain that lifestyle? And I think that's something that we have to teach our youth so they understand, that gets overlooked. So you can have all these nice things and it looks great while you're on this run. It may be an 8, 10 year run. It may be a 15-year run. Um, but you have to be ready to withstand that storm. I mean, and sometimes we can make bad investments. Some things that we invest in, the stock market goes up and down, but we can make bad investments. I even look at my situation to how forced me into bankruptcy. I was happy in the real estate game, but I also went to a recession in 2008. A lot of people don't understand that. It was a recession and I got caught in it. So you have to be prepared for those type of things to happen. And I think that's what we have to educate our youth and not everybody about finances. So it's kind of like, and I'm pretty sure you use this a lot in your world, that emergency fund.
Yep.
Are people actually putting up and putting money into an emergency fund just in case you need it? So all those things play a part in it. But I think the one thing that sticks out to me is that we have to understand taxes first, and then everything after that can kind of fall in line.
No, that's real. You know, $1 million is not $1 million after you take taxes out. And then obviously in your world, you get different fees for agents and all that other stuff. But let's actually talk about that
Yeah.
that investment part, because that's real important. That, experiencing that 2007, 2008 crisis, right? How had that impacted you moving forward, right? Because there has obviously would probably be some type of trauma there. However, I tell people all the time, right? You can't necessarily allow one bad experience to kind of dictate how you are with money moving forward. And I say it all the time, like, you can't save your way to wealth. Obviously, you gotta invest your money. So experiencing that, kind of, what is your view on real estate now?
I think educating yourself. I
Mhm.
think for me, I kind of put my wealth in somebody else's hands, and that's in the real estate game, and as well as the stock market. I mean, if I'm gonna put my money in the stock market, sit down and teach me about the market. Teach me about the highs and lows. Teach me that the market is going to go up and down. I think that's the thing a lot of guys do too, especially as athletes. We put our trust in somebody else all the time with our money, and there's nothing wrong with that when you got paid professionals and people that know about investing. But on the process, teach me. Take me through the process. Teach me why we invest in this stock. Teach me why we put money right there. I think we keep ourselves so uneducated. So when we do hit a rough patch, we think somebody's stealing from us. We think somebody's taking from us because we're not educated. So you have to educate yourself in the process of going through this. So if you're hiring a financial advisor or dealing with somebody, walk me through this. Let me know why we putting 50 grand over here. Let me know why we putting 100,000 right here. You know what I mean? And when the market goes bad, break it down to me. So I don't feel like you stole money or I did something wrong. Like, help me understand all these things. And I think that's something that a lot of guys as athletes, we don't do. We trust in these financial advisors. And I'm not saying that they're all bad, but walk me through the process. Teach me on how things go. I think that's how things can get better for a lot of guys.
That's powerful. That's powerful, right? Don't just give me a fish, teach me a fish, right? That way I could, feed myself for a lifetime. A great saying. But look, we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna have more with the Antoine Walker. All right, welcome back to Financial Freestyle here on Yahoo Finance. And look, guys, we're talking to the Antoine Walker, and it's a remarkable conversation because we're talking about, how a person who at the height of his game was one of the best to ever do it. And now you're still being and walking in your purpose off the court. And so I really want to know, right? Just let the people know what you're working on now.
Well, right now I started a project and people seen it because I've teased it a bunch over my social media. But I still got the documentary that's going to come out going in the instant.
Mm.
Still working on that, finishing up a few more interviews, gonna and put still be able to put that out. And that's going to be an educational tool as well as just sharing my life story. So I'm looking forward to putting that out. Also, right now I'm working with the Celtics for the last 3.5 years in the front office, doing stuff in the community, still being able to be around the guys in the basketball team and everything. So hopefully we got a new ownership group coming into Boston. Hopefully I can be a part of that and get to know those guys and continue working with them.
You know what I love about you is that you are open with your story. And like you say, it inspires other people because quite so often people suffer financially and money's such a taboo topic that the average person doesn't want to talk about it, right? But when you really look at statistics, when I say over 60% of people live paycheck to paycheck, right? And it's not just a function of how much money you make, right? Because, you know, almost a quarter of people that make over six figures are also living paycheck to paycheck, right? Over 60% of people don't have $1,000 saved, but I love your story because you're open about it and inspiring other people. And so, like, when you really think about what you've done financially, what advice do you have to someone that's starting over, right? Because obviously, what was it like in 2010, 2011, you filed bankruptcy, but now you're starting up. Well, you started over then, and obviously you back, successful. So, like, what advice would you give to someone that's starting over?
I would say first and foremost, you have to learn from your mistakes. You had to learn from your mistakes. So the things that you do wrong, you can't duplicate those. You can't think you can do it over again because you got wealth coming in. I think a lot of times, especially wealthy people, we don't have the word no in our vocabulary. We seem to help a lot of people. So unfortunately, it's nothing wrong with helping a lot of people and doing a lot of great things for a family, but you have to get the word no in your vocabulary. If you want to be successful financially down the line, you got to be, stubborn. You have to be, kind of to a point where you have to actually build not only for your kids, your kids' kids. And I think that's sometimes where we don't understand generational wealth. So I think that's the thing that, that kind of really sticks out in my mind, especially having wealth so early and coming into the league at 19 and signing the max contract at $71 million at 21 years old. The money came so fast without the education. So you have to stop and educate yourself. And I think especially for regular people, I think we have to understand, start realizing what taxes are first and foremost. Obviously, we have to start realizing what kind of lifestyle do you want to live? Are you making enough money to maintain that lifestyle? Or can you maintain that lifestyle? I think we pre-spend a lot, you know, especially black people, we pre-spend. We buy shit, we buy things, we buy materialistic things, and we don't know how we're gonna maintain it. We don't know how we're gonna keep it. We just do it because we got the money at that moment. But we have to start building for the future, generational wealth. We don't think about it. Sometimes we rich at 22 years old. Some of these athletes, they don't have any kids. But by 3, 4 years into the league, you may have had 2 kids. So did you factor in your kids into your financial situation? Are you making sure that they're gonna be taken care of? It's just a lot of things that we have to educate ourselves on, and we don't do it. And the last thing I would say is no matter how much money you make, you're never too busy to take care of your own finances. Now, you may not have all the answers. You're going to need help, but we have to stop relying on other people. We have to stop being uneducated when we're the ones out there making our money and this livelihood. I think that's what happens a lot. We rely on so many other people to take care of our financial situation without us sitting down and understanding everything and where every dollar's going. That's one thing I would tell any athlete or anybody that's making a lot of money. Take the time, take a few hours out your day to know where your money is going, how you're spending it. Don't rely on somebody else to do that for you.
I love that, bro. Them real gems, right? And you talk about the spending habits, right? Quite often, people are buying stuff they can't afford with money that they don't have to impress people they don't even like. So you was just giving gems, man. Bruh, it's real, right? And you look at social media,
Yeah.
everybody's trying to look rich. It's a facade. But the reality is, right, when you got to get educated on it. And the most important step when it comes to becoming wealthy is first things first. You got to control your inflows and outflows. You got to budget. You got to know where that money's going. And then you start investing, right? And then you figuring out how to get out of debt and all that. So one, I loved it, right? And so when we came back, you talked about a few of the things you're working on, right? Obviously, MBPA, a lot of financial literacy, but you also talked about TV. And I will say you've been going real viral lately on social media, man. And one of your hot takes was talking about when a young Bron came to one of y'all sessions and Jordan was down here. Let me understand, right? And obviously that take went viral, but I got another take, right? A lot of people talk about who was the most feared. And you got the opportunity to play with Shaq, and obviously you got an opportunity to play with and against Jordan. About with, I'm talking about in the pickups. Who was more feared? Was it Jordan or Shaq?
I would say Jordan. For me, I think the Lakers Shaq was more feared. Um,
Mm,
I played with the Miami Shaq, which was great, and he was terrific. But we were kind of led by young D Wade. So D Wade was kind of the 1A and Shaq was 1B. Um,
mm,
but Michael was different, you know what I mean, as far as most fear. I got an opportunity to go against Michael in 96, 97, 98 when they won the three titles. I had just got drafted. I was 1-11 against Mike in my first 3 years against him when I was with the Celtics. 1-11. That's how dominant he was.
that's
No, serious. That's how dominant he was. It's 1-11. And they won three championships. You gotta think, I was a kid from Chicago. I went from cheering for the Bulls the first three championships and now going against them and when they won the second three championships. So this is one of those type of situations. But Mike was the most fair. And then to be able to work out with him to come back and spend, 4 or 5 days a week for 2 years, every day, watching how this guy works in the summertime to get prepared at age 38, 39, 40 years old was something that I always remember for the rest of my life. It's something that keeps me motivated, especially as being an athlete, to watch Michael be able to come back out of retirement and do it and play at a super high level and watch the work that he put in. I just got the most respect for that guy. I know we always get into that Kobe LeBron debate, and I love LeBron, but Michael's my GOAT. Will always be because not only did I well, how he played, I got to witness it firsthand and be on a daily basis for a couple years. So the way I feel is a little different.
No, you ain't gonna get no argument out of me, man. The Chicago wanted me to be able to witness Jordan at that age as a youngster, but I'm like, bro, he's different, right? And so it's amazing to see the longevity of Bron, but Jordan a different animal. But I actually got a question now, right? Because you brought up D Wade, so I got to put you on the spot. What's your starting five for Chicago-born players?
Uh, I got Isaiah Thomas at the point.
Mm,
Um, Derrick Rose at the other guard.
yeah,
I'm going with a three guard offense. Then I got D Wade. Then I got to be a little biased, man. I got to put myself in there,
yeah.
and then I got Mark. Then I got Mark Aguirre. I
Aguirre.
got Mark Aguirre.
Wow.
Mark Aguirre
That's
does.
wrong.
Mark Aguirre. Listen, Mark Aguirre doesn't get the love that he's supposed to get. Um, this guy, first pick in the draft, two-time NBA champion, unbelievable score. And he was the first pick in the draft, bro. That's like, it's so huge. I don't understand. It's crazy that he's not in the Hall of Fame. I don't know what's going on. I don't know who he pissed off or what he did. But
Now that's
Mark
wrong.
Aguirre doesn't get it. Yeah, he doesn't get enough credit for what he was. And I just think,
That's wrong.
and I just think in Chicago, obviously, like I said, I'm not being biased. I mean, I think it's great forwards. I put myself first, but I like, people like Ben Wilson from back in the day. Obviously, a lot of us didn't get a chance to see Ben play. You got Juwan Howard, um, who doesn't get enough credit. One of the great players from Chicago. So there's some great forwards out there. But I think those three guards with the honorable mention, I know you only asked me for five, with Tim Hardaway kind of lingering in there. You got that Isaiah Thomas. right? You got Isaiah Thomas, D Wade, Derrick Rose to me. Then you got Tim Hardaway. So you got like those four guys are like Chicago, but they all guards. You know what I mean? Yeah, those four guys kind of stick out to me.
The so one, I 100% agree with your list, right? So I was going and it was crazy because when I said Chicago born, it's kind of hard to say where KG is from, but we know him for going to high school here, so you don't put him in there. But I would have had the only difference I might have, and this preceded me, so I don't know Aguirre. I would have probably put AD at the 5, you at the 4, and then I would have did D Wade, D Rose, and Isaiah Thomas. And then coming off the bench,
that's the thing. That's the thing, though. If we got a second team, AD fits it. I mean, that's when you start. That's what ADs, the Juwan Howard.
Yeah. I'm gonna put Finley.
Yeah, I first time the Mike Finleys. You know what I'm saying? Now we start to get that list gets a little different. And you know what's crazy is too, I think it's 2 lists. And the people don't say this, because we got a lot of guys that just never panned out too. You know that didn't pan out, that are great basketball players that we know them, if we bump into them, they get the respect from us, but they're not going to get the national respect too. So that's a little tricky about Chicago. Chicago's one of those cities. I think New York is one of those cities, and maybe like LA, California, where we got so many great players. We got street ball legends, guys that should have made it, guys that had short careers, but their basketball skill level was super good, super high. You know what I mean?
Like Paul,
it just depends.
One of them.
Right. You know, Marcus Liberty, you know, Jamie Brandon. You know what I mean? We got so many guys that they got that, you know, you used to get in school, incomplete.
That's a fact.
You should get an incomplete. We got a few incompletes on our team.
Well, man, listen, this has been an amazing episode. Twan, I just want to thank you for coming on here, man. We're doing some stuff this summer. You're going to be speaking at the Macronomics Wealth Summit. You're going to be probably coaching said team. Yeah. We're going to have a ball, man. I just really want to say thanks for coming on here. That's it for this episode of Financial Freestyle here on Yahoo Finance. Make sure you guys tune in every Monday and make sure you like and subscribe.
This content was not intended to be financial advice and should not be used as a substitute for professional financial services.